Not only was 2025 a brutal year for Bigfoot sightings, January went 0 to feral real fast. Multiple encounters slammed the same county in Arkansas. Godzilla-level roars, wood knocks from different directions, deep growls behind a 6-foot fence, dogs refusing to go outside, and neighbors reporting dead dogs and getting rocks thrown at them. By spring, investigators caught hundreds of hours of wild audio, and a witness saw a 7-foot-tall figure lurking right outside her house. And whatever it was, it didn't leave. I'm Uncle Perry. I don't just tell stories. I dig up the fucked up ones most folks are too chicken shit to talk about. And I do it in a cavalier kind of way. From cryptids to government secrets, I chase down the truth behind the legends. Today, we're diving headfirst into the most terrifying Bigfoot encounters of 2025. These aren't just backyard shadows. We're talking real, hair-raising encounters that definitely increases the pucker factor. So, grab a seat, hold on to your ass, and get ready, because this ride, it's about to get fucking wild. Let's get it! Real quick, what do y'all think about me going back to the classic Uncle Perry format, with me popping in and out with the live narration and comments? I think it's more personal that way. And I don't have to find as much B-roll. Either way, let me know down in the comments what y'all think. It will play a factor in whether I keep doing it or not. Cool? Sweet. Now, let's rip into the outright insanity of the Bigfoot sightings of 2025. These are no bullshit sightings. I researched the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization and the North American Wood Ape Conservancy to get the good shit. I'll leave the links down in the description. We're going to kick this shitstorm off with several encounters that happened right at the beginning of the year in the same county. January, Cleburne County, Arkansas. About 60 miles south of Little Rock, between the Ozark foothills and Greer's Ferry Lake, sits Cleburne County. Population around 25K. A very common, normal population size for U.S. counties. What's not normal is what happened in Cleburne County. For multiple witnesses, it became a downright nightmare. It began in the summer of 2024. It started with a scream that was described as a combination of a wild hog, bobcat, and your sister, but longer, deeper, and guttural, echoing through the woods. 6 months or so later, January 2025, the encounters shifted into let's get it mode. January 12, wood knocks were heard by several witnesses. January 15, 3 days later, one of the same witnesses from January 12 had a run-in with it. It was 2:33 p.m., the middle of the day. The witness was changing some outdoor lights when they heard a wood knock followed by a scream. Needless to say, they hauled ass back into the house. Then, later that evening, around 7 p.m., while a different witness was inside their home, they reported hearing another scream. It was 30 degrees outside and the snow was mostly melted. When the witness described the roar, they said it sounded like Godzilla. They have several dogs that normally will bark at the least little movement on the property. Yet lately, when this particular strangeness starts, the dogs beg to be let back inside. They know when shit's not right. They're like, fuck that noise. The witness went to the woodape.org website, heard the X-roar sound on the website, and nearly shit their pants. Then, on January 24th, there was a low growling heard by one of the witnesses that was coming from the woods from behind a 6-foot fence on their property. Dude, you're gonna need a bigger fence. The next day, January 25, different witnesses returned home to find their garbage can taken out of the brick enclosure and turned upside down with the lid still on it. The garbage can is plastic. There were no teeth marks or claw marks on it. It was like someone just picked it up, turned it over, and sat it down. Yeah, that's fucked up. On January 28th, the same witness from January 24th heard a super loud growl and very heavy walking in the woods behind the 6-foot fence where the previous growl was heard. The investigator talked to the witnesses for 41 minutes. Each encounter was very detailed. One of them even kept a journal of the incidents that were happening. The property is heavily wooded, 3 acres with a seasonal pond when they have heavy rains. They're nowhere near their neighbors, but they still talk. One of the witnesses has been talking to their neighbors about the fucked up shit going on. The witness said that one neighbor's 2 dogs were killed by something, and when he fishes in his pond, sometimes he has rocks thrown at him from the woods. There have been other neighbors that have reported finding strange-looking tracks on their property as well. Update, May 28, 2025. The investigator placed a handheld audio recorder in the field for 5 weeks and recorded hundreds of hours of audio. The investigator retrieved the audio recorder on April 2nd, 2025. While he was there, he learned that the witness had spotted a large, dark-colored, upright animal at around 1:40 p.m. The witness was just chilling on the back porch and saw the animal past the fence. Along with the sighting was an ungodly smell. The witness said that what she saw was at least 7 foot tall or taller. We stood in the spot where she saw the figure, and she could barely see us due to the overgrown grass. Yet she had no problem seeing the Bigfoot at the same distance, leading to the conclusion that what she saw was at least 7 to 8 feet tall. Tall as fuck. It appeared to be low-key chilling and just rumbling around an old barn. Hair samples were collected from the fence. Some of it was identified as white-tailed deer, but one really coarse and black sample needs further testing done. The sample was degraded really bad, showing signs of freezing and thawing multiple times. This left the investigator unable to identify it by comparing it to normal mammal hair. Shit, send it to the Smithsonian. I'm sure they'll tell you what it is, if they don't lose the sample again. February 19, 2025, Center County, Pennsylvania. In February, a young man identified as MK had one of the most terrifying Bigfoot encounters reported that year in Center County, Pennsylvania, near State Game Lands 333 along Spring Creek, just outside Bellefonte. This wasn't his first strange experience there. It was the final and most intense one in a string of escalating encounters that started earlier in the month. MK, a Penn State student and licensed raccoon hunter, had been scouting and hunting the area since January. Nothing felt off at first, but on February 1st, things went sideways fast. Around 6:45 p.m., well after sunset, he parked at the Spring Creek Canyon trailhead and hiked in. Almost immediately, he was hit with an overwhelming feeling of dread, the kind that makes you say, "Oh shit!" He felt watched. The woods were damn near pitch black, boxed in by the creek canyon with barely any moonlight. He set up a predator call blasting raccoon sounds for 4 minutes. The entire time he felt eyes on him. While the call played, he kept hearing a strange plap, plap, plap sound coming from the creek, like something desperately smacking the water. Not natural creek noise, not random, something intentional. When the call ended, he bailed. As he walked back up the trail, he turned and hit a creek with his spotlight. He saw a large black silhouette on the opposite bank vanish into the brush. Freaked out, but trying to rationalize it away, he left. Minutes later, while grabbing his phone from his vest at a nearby fish hatchery entrance, a small stone came flying out of the darkness, hit near his feet, and skittered under his car. That was enough. He dove in his car and got the hell out. I would too. The worst encounter came February 19th on the southwest side of the same game lands. That afternoon, MK parked along Rock Road, crossing Spring Creek in chest-high waders, and entered the woods about 70 yards in. It was cold, low 20s, overcast, dead calm. He ran predator calls again with no results and started heading back as daylight faded. He followed a small animal trail that paralleled the creek toward a rocky outcrop near a small bridge. The pine trees there were thick as hell. Open ground below, but a dense canopy overhead that swallowed light. Twilight was almost gone and his nerves were shot. As he headed back west, he heard a single, solid wood knock behind him, southwest at his 8 o'clock. Not random, not branches falling. One clean, deliberate knock, like someone tapping a tree with a bat. He didn't run. He knew better. But now he could hear something moving with him. Slow, heavy, ice crunching, twigs snapping, keeping pace. Nervously sweeping the woods with his spotlight, he caught a glimpse of something large and upright slipping behind a tree. That's when he called a close friend, an ROTC student, begging him to grab his AR and come help. At first, the friend laughed. Then he realized MK wasn't bullshitting. Pinned near a choke point where thorn bushes and the creek kind of boxed him in, MK scanned again. Turning left, his spotlight hit the thing dead in the face, about 40 yards away. Holy shit! What he saw fucked him up. The face looked like a King Kong type ape, but more refined. Medium gray skin, wispy gray hair, sharp nose, thin lips, heavy brow ridge, sunken eyes, blocky chin, no visible ears, a rounded, sloped head with a receding hairline and a tuft of hair on top, like a balding middle-aged man. Facial hair about 2 to 3 inches long. It was fucking huge, over 7 feet tall, absolutely jacked. The shoulders and the arms were massive, double the size of the biggest bodybuilder you know. Traps up to the ears, no visible neck. It was gripping the tree with one arm, pulling the other back, trying to stay hidden. MK saw it for maybe 2 seconds before it snapped back behind the tree. Terrified, he forced himself backward through the thorn bushes, crossed the creek, scrambled up the embankment, and made it back to Rock Road and his vehicle. He got out alive, but not unchanged. Since then, he's had trouble sleeping. That face keeps showing up when he closes his eyes. And this is a guy who's been chased by a black bear and shot at by other hunters. Nothing compares to this. A BFRO investigator interviewed MK for over 40 minutes and found him credible, detailed, and consistent. His conclusion? This was a definitive Bigfoot encounter. Given the terrain, water, food, and shelter in Game Lands 333, especially in winter, it makes total sense. Even local pheasant hunters reported their dogs couldn't find a single bird after the area was stocked with 400 pheasants. Something big was definitely there. November 24th, 2025, San Bernardino, California. In San Bernardino County, California, near Mount Baldy's Manker Flats campground, a parent took their 15-year-old son and 2 nephews, ages 14 and 17, on a camping trip that went sideways fast. They arrived around 8:30 p.m., driving up the mountain in complete darkness. Their campground felt off immediately. Mostly deserted with only 2 other tent sites occupied. They picked a camping spot near the bathrooms, cleared rocks, pitched the tent, lit a fire, and listened to the coyotes howl. Creepy, sure, but still normal campfire story creepy. Eventually, after another camper set off their car alarm to scare the coyotes away, they turned in for the night. At 3:30 a.m., everything fucking changed. The adult woke up to the unmistakable sound of rocks hitting the ground. Not pebbles, but solid, heavy rocks. 10 to 15 of them. The ground vibrated when they struck the dirt. They hit near the head side of the tent and rolled towards it, close enough to feel intentional, but none smacked the tent. It wasn't a rock slide, it wasn't gravity, and the site wasn't sloped enough to explain it. Whoever or whatever did it stopped suddenly. They stayed frozen, ran through every rational explanation possible, and eventually fell back asleep. In the morning, the son brought it up, and the oldest nephew confirmed he'd heard it too. Outside the tent, they found 8 roundish rocks, baseball to softball size, sitting 4 to 10 feet from their tent. The bottoms of the rocks were dry, unlike the untouched surrounding rocks, meaning they hadn't been there long. Besides, the ground had been cleared of rocks before they pitched the tent the night before. Something threw them. They tried recreating the throws, but couldn't throw them hard enough to replicate the hit and roll. The rocks would have had to have been thrown from a distance with serious force and precision, close enough to scare them without hitting the tent. That little detail stuck hard. The adult, trying not to freak out the kids, kept it together and took them to a nearby snow resort. When she casually asked an older parking attendant if the campground was safe, he gave her a strange look and said, "If I told you it was safe, then what would happen?" What the fuck? That sealed it. They packed up their shit and hauled ass. They've camped all over Mammoth, Holcomb Valley, Silverwood Lake. They've dealt with bears, mountain lions, gunshots, frost damage, all of it. None of that shit rattled them like this did. The vibe at Mount Baldy was wrong from the start. Dead quiet, heavy, like something knew they were there and wanted them to leave. And it sure as hell let them know it. July 21st, Port Townsend, Washington. On July 21st, 2025, around 3:45 in the afternoon, a witness was walking alone through Fort Townsend State Park. It was broad daylight, nothing spooky going on. They had a walking stick and occasionally tapped the roots or the ground, making normal woody knocking sounds as they moved along the trail. Right after turning onto a new path, they caught a brief, skunky smell. It faded fast, so they didn't think much of it and kept walking. Then the knocking started. At first, it was intermittent, faint, and clearly not coming from their stick. Curious, they stopped and opened the Merlin Bird app, thinking maybe some bird was making the noise. Merlin came back with nothing. No birds detected. They checked the wind next. Nothing strong enough to knock trees together, so they tested it. They tapped a nearby tree 3 times. Immediately, 3 sharp knocks came back from the woods in the same direction as the original sound. Now, thinking someone was fucking with them, they tapped twice. 2 knocks came right back. Same tempo. Still assuming it was human bullshit, they continued walking. They'd seen a cyclist earlier, but no one else around. The knocking continued, and it was moving with them. They stopped again and tapped 3 times. This time, the response came from 2 directions, one at 10 o'clock and further out at the original source at 8 o'clock. Now it seemed like at least 2 people were pacing them through the woods, which was unsettling as hell. You think? They tried blaming the wind again, even though they walk these trails regularly and have never heard anything like this. The responses were still exact. Same number of knocks, same rhythm. At first, it almost felt playful, until it wasn't. At about 2 o'clock, closer than the others, came a violent, rhythmic smashing sound. Way louder, way fucking heavier. Not stick on tree loud, more like log on log with force. It sounded like bark getting ripped off the wood. As soon as that started, the other knocks went dead silent. That's when the witness noped the fuck out. They stopped tapping trees, stopped engaging, and exited the forest faster than your mom when the beer cooler at the bait shop gets restocked. Whatever was out there, it didn't feel curious anymore. It felt territorial. And judging by the directions and responses, it sure as hell didn't sound like it was just one thing. No, it was several. October 16, Folkston, Georgia. On October 16, 2025, a group of 2 adults and 2 teenagers arrived in Folkston, Georgia, planning to stay a few nights while attending an event in nearby Waycross and doing some rail fanning, or train spotting. They got there around 2 p.m., unloaded their gear, and set up 4 tripods near the cabin. 2 with LED light panels for night filming, and 2 with phone mounts for steady train footage. Around 8 p.m., they fired up the grill and cooked filet mignon and hot dogs, the culinary equivalent of a tuxedo with flip-flops. The neighbor nearby had 4 or 5 cats roaming around, playing like usual. No red flags. Yet. By 9 p.m., shit got weird. 2 of the adults started hearing movement in the brush on the northeast side of the cabin, across 4 railroad tracks. They walked down closer to the tracks to see what was making the noise. One of them hit the bushes with a flashlight and immediately saw green reflective eyes and a huge dark silhouette crouched low, swaying back and forth. The movement matched the sound in the brush. One of them reached for their phone to record and realized it was back at the campfire. Then the woods went dead silent. No crickets. Nothing. A nasty, gut-turning smell rolled across the tracks. Everyone smelled it. At the same time, the neighbor's cats bolted and didn't come back after that. Moments later, a rock flew across the tracks and landed near the group. It clearly came from the direction of the swaying figure. A second rock followed, hitting the rails hard enough to spark. One of the teenagers freaked out and went back to the cabin with his dad following. That's when the remaining adult and teen heard strange chattering, not just from the original spot, but also from 40 to 50 feet south of it, followed by a loud branch snap. That's when it hit them. There were two of these fuckers. When one of the adults yelled out, another rock slammed into the tracks, again with even more sparks. These weren't weak tosses. The rocks were being thrown over 120 feet with force. One of the adults grabbed an LED panel and lit up the bushes. The silhouette stood up, revealing eye shine about 7 feet off the ground, amber green in color. The thing was roughly 7.5 feet tall, broad-shouldered, and clearly bipedal. Then it fucked off into the brush. Nothing else happened that night or the next two. The group later found a deer killed by a train nearby. They couldn't check for tracks due to CSX private land, but the memory of that first night left a mental impression. By the end of 2025, one thing was crystal fucking clear. Bigfoot didn't fade into the background. It didn't retreat. Hell, if anything, it got bolder. These encounters weren't spread out over decades or whispered from some dusty campfire story. They were packed into months, sometimes weeks, with witnesses who didn't go looking for trouble and sure as hell didn't want the attention. Normal folks, hunters, families, people who just wanted to live their lives without something massive screaming in the woods at 2 in the damn morning. What sticks with me isn't just the sightings, it's the behavior, the timing, daylight encounters, trash moved like a prank, dogs that suddenly knew when to stay inside, something that watched, waited, tested boundaries. That's not random, that's awareness. And once you start seeing patterns instead of isolated stories, it becomes a lot harder to brush this shit off as coincidence. Maybe Bigfoot isn't some lost ape hiding from us. Maybe it's something that knows exactly how close it can get without crossing the line. Or maybe that line's already been crossed and we're just pretending it hasn't. So when you go to bed tonight, keep this in mind. The woods didn't calm down in 2025. If anything, they got louder. More knocks, more screams, more moments where animals go dead silent for no goddamn reason. And somewhere out there, something big is still pacing tree lines, watching porch lights flick off, listening to engines die, and counting the seconds between you stepping outside and realizing you shouldn't have. So go ahead and lock your doors if it makes you feel better. But locks don't mean a damn thing to something that never planned on coming inside. Listen close the next time the woods go quiet, because whatever's out there already knows where you are and how to fuck with you. Do you like weird-ass monsters and government conspiracies? Then tap that like button and subscribe. That way, you won't miss out on more of my fucked up commentary. And besides, I really do appreciate it. So, Bigfoot's obviously still out there. Do you think this year we'll either get full disclosure from the government or incredible evidence that cracks the case wide open? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're ready to crank that shit all the way up to 11, that join button's got your name on it. For just $2.99, you can have my back in a huge way. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. You are the real beast.